Hello and greetings. We will be presenting article analysis on motivation. My team members are me, myself, Muhammad Asharin Lezen Asnal, Pauline Zia Marius, and Shirley Jess. So, following on, the content for this report are introduction, syntax, word formation, semantics, pragmatics, and conclusions. So, I will continue on with introduction. So, for the introduction, I would like to quote Ferdinand de Saussure. No other subject than language has fostered more absurd notions, more prejudices, more illusion, or more fantasies. What we understand from this is, according to Ferdinand de Saussure, language should not be the exclusive purview of highly trained specialists. Instead, all speakers of language or all members of culture are interested in and important to linguistics. Here, he criticized his predecessors in the subjects of linguistics harshly, criticizing the lack of scientific rigor in their varied approaches and findings about something that is so essential to humanity. So basically, the foundation building block of language, the essence that allows the language to exist and thrive, whilst also maintaining a considerable number of speakers, whether it is their first, second language. In this project, we were tasked to analyze an article that consisted of at least 14 pages that discuss topic that falls under within the perimeter of a social or medical issues. Any sorts of article that is relevant to this category. Simply for the article, we have chosen an article that discuss about motivation. For this said article, we have chosen to analyze four elements, which are syntax, word formation, semantics, and pragmatics. All right, as for syntax, basically syntax is the knowledge of sentence structure, is the rules that govern sentence structure, which means that it is syntax with which we can expand sentences, each time creating a new sentences by adding words to the previous sentences in a certain fashion. Syntax governs the various semantics, interpretation of different possible word orders. Syntax allows us to have two sentences with the same words but with different meaning. So as for sentence lengths, we will be taking average of sentences length taken throughout the whole article. So basically, there's short, about 5 to 10 words long, medium, about 15 to 25 words long, long, approximately 30 words or more, and thus the length fit the subject matter, what variety of length is present. So for the lowest word count, which is 5, within a sentence that was taken for the average was 9 words, whilst the highest word count was 32 words. We took 20 samples and the total word for the 20 samples was 465 words. We then divide it by 20 for the averages and came up with a number of 23.25 average words length. To answer the first question, the article consisted of medium sentence length, which was approximately 15 to 25 words long. Then to answer the second question, the variety of words length that's present varies drastically from a short sentence or 9 words to a long sentence with 32 words, with the other 18 samples with snugly within the 9 to 32 words range. So for sentence beginning, we're looking if there is also a good variety of pattern that emerges. To answer it simply, the sentence beginning are all following a pattern. This pattern consisted of referencing the topic or subtopics and be followed with either with a simple definition, references to other subjects, or directly straight to the heart of the matter. For an example, for discussion number one title, types of theories of model. It is immediately followed with statement. Motivation theories can be classified on a number of bases. Then it continues on with the discussion, such as sentence beginning pattern occurs for author and sentence beginning pattern occurs for author and discussion and subtopic. All right. For word order, usually we ask if the words are set out in a specific orders for a purpose or effect. To that question, we answer that the words in the sentence are not intentionally set out in any specific orders for any purposes or effects. It may or may not be affected by the other author, but even so, we notice that the words order are all sharp, accurate, straight to the point, and are to be made sure that the points that the author want to send across are well received and understood. For instance, quote unquote, motivation can be conceived of a cycle of in which thoughts influence behavior, behavior drives performance, performance impact thoughts, and the cycle begins again. As you can see here, the author words order is as such and it stays consistent throughout the whole article. For rhetorical question, basically, it is a question for which no answer is expected. It is used to draw attention to a point. In the article, there are no explicitly question mark type of questions, though there also exists rhetorical question in which it serves to function and draw attention to a specific point. For example, quote unquote, the idea that human beings are rational and human behaviors is guided by reason is an old one. Uh, but while not a theory of motivation per se, the theory of cognitive dissonance purposes that people have a motivational drive to reduce dissonance. These rhetorical statement are then followed with the appropriate point that relates back to the original point of discussion. Following on, for arrangement of ideas, it can be categorized to three general categories: loose sentences, makes complete sense if brought to a close before the actual ending. The main point is front-loaded. Periodic sentences make sense only when the end of the sentences is reached, and parallel structure refers to a grammatical or structural similarities between sentences or part of a sentence. From our study, we discovered that was truly the fact. Therefore, these are the example of loose, periodic, and parallel sentences. Loose sentences, quote unquote, motivation is a theoretical construct used to explain behavior. Periodic sentences, drive theory grows out of the concept that people have certain biological drives such as hunger and thirst. And parallel sentences, the self-control aspect of motivation is increasingly considered to be a subset of emotional intelligence. It is suggested that although a person may be classed as highly intelligent, they may remain unmotivated to pursue intellectual endeavors. That is the example for arrangement of ideas. Last but not least, it is the sentence classification. Principally, these criteria can be further divided into two criteria, which are basic sentences and basic structure. There are four types of basic sentences. Types which are declarative sentences, imperative, interrogative, and exclamatory. Similarly, there are also four basic structure which includes simple sentences, compound sentences, complex sentences, and compound complex sentence. So, for the first sub-criteria, we can understand that almost 99% of the statement made in the article are declarative type of statement. It is factual and straight to the point. For example, the opening sentence are motivation is a rhetorical construct used to explain behavior. It is indeed factual and straight to the point. Finally, in regard to structure, we can understand that it uses the combination of all these sentences type, most notably simple and compound sentences. An example, for simple sentences, it is as follows. Quote unquote, extrinsic motivation comes from influence outside of the individuals. Following on, an example for compound sentences, motivation can be conceived as of a cycle in which thoughts influence behavior, behavior drive performance, performance impacts thoughts, and the cycle begins again. That is all for my part in syntax. I will pass on to my next group member. Thank you very much.
Greeting to Ms. Akmas Art. My name is Religious and I will be presenting my part in the assignment that we have conducted. So the element that I've chosen is word formation process. So word formation process is regarded as one of the branch of morphology, and it has a significant roles in expanding the vocabulary that help us communicate effectively. So the main objective of the word formation process are to form new words with the same root by developing different rules of process. So they are 9 rules of process that is found in under word formation process. So the first rules of process is derivation. So derivation is one of the significant process that attach derivation affix to the main form to create a new word. So affixes are regarded as bound morphemes. And this bound morpheme doesn't have any independent meaning and it needs the help of a free morpheme to form a new word. So they are 8 examples that um, extracted from the article that we have chosen. So the examples are complexity, meaningfulness, encourages rationality, performance, withdrawal, experience, and tendency. So if each of these words are not the root word, but a a word that is added with a free morpheme. So the next rules is back formation. So back formation is a process that eliminates the actual derivational affix from the main form to create a new word. However, back formation is contrary to derivation in terms of forming new word. So the examples that can be found from the articles are like motivation, whereas the root word is motive, development is develop, preparation, connection, justification, reduction, observation, provision, punishment, and achievement. So from my personal view, back formation is a word that is where the um, free morpheme such as the tion or ment is removed from the word and it create a new word or it come back to the actual root word. So the next element is conversion. In conversion, a word of one grammatical form convert in another grammatical form without changing any spelling or pronunciation. So generally conversion is a noun word converted into a verb. So the examples are like from the noun word, it is converted into the to satisfy or otherwise. From to satisfy to satisfy. From the verb to the noun word. So these are the few examples that I am able to extract from the article. So the next element is compounding. Compounding is a process that allows words to combine to make a new word. Compounding words can also be formed as two words joined with hyphens. So in this process, two words from a two word with a different meaning is combined or compound and create a new word. So the examples from the articles are oneself, profitable workplace, provision, well-being, outstanding, time-bound, self-regulatory, interpersonal feedback, helpless, pinpoint, and willpower. So I will take the willpower as example. So will is will plus power, and when it is combined, it creates a willpower. So the next elements that can be found is clipping. So in this process, it reduces a shorten a word without changing the exact meaning. And clipping has 4 types, which are back clipping, fore clipping, middle clipping, complex clipping. But there is not any examples that I am able to find in the article. So moving on to the next element, which is blending. So blending is a type of word formation in which two or more words are merged into one so that the blended constituent are either clipped or partially overlapped. So examples that I'm able to find from the articles are clash and workaholic. So clash is a word blended from the word clap and crash, but there is some error here. I'll answer for that. So the second example is workaholic. So it is a blended word from the word work and alcoholic. So it creates a new word which is workaholic. So the next element is abbreviation. Abbreviation is a process where the word or phrase is shortened, but there is not any example from the article. So, but a general example of this process is the word Mr. is shortened into MR, or the junior is shortened into JR, and so on. So the next element is acronym. So it is acronym is have a word formation process in which an initial is pronounced as a word. It forms from the first letter of each word in a phrase, and the newly formed letters create a new word and help a speedy communication. So examples that I am able to find from the article are BSR, which stand for Banana Stimulus Response, IT, information technology, SMART with SMART criteria, which represent the specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound criteria, and several other more examples. So last but not least, borrowing. So borrowing is another word formation process in which a word from one language is borrowed directly into another language. So examples that can be found in the article are vice versa, which is a borrowed language from Latin. Algebra is also from Latin, and the entrepreneur is originally a French word, but is borrowed into the English word, and also justice. So that is all from me. Thank you.
Now I'll be explaining about semantics, but before I get into it, let me just explain what semantics is about. So semantics is the branch of linguistics and logic concerned with meaning. So based on the article that we have chosen, semantics can be found in most of the subtopics. So the author uses a variety of reference, presuppositions, implications, and logic to explain how motivation occurs in a person, and he uses terms that best describes what makes one motivated or how he or she is motivated by it. So here you can see that there are terms like extrinsic, intrinsic, reinforcement, rewards, punishment, etc. So these type of words, it helps determine how a person interprets the text. So basically speaking, with this kind of words, the readers kind of has the idea of what the context is about. So with the terms used, it helps like again with I mean again with the terms used, it helps determine how people interpret the text. So for instance, the word here motivation and reward. So motivation can have different meanings in context. It could mean a person's motivation to win the competition, a person's motivation to get fit, a person's motivation to be the top of his or her class. And moreover, the word reward is used. Moreover, when the word reward is used, it we may understand that it could be a candy for a child, money as a token of appreciation, or probably a small gift would do. So based on the context of the text. Okay, so another example of the article. Another example from the article that we can see is that the author uses the two concepts of semantics, which are connotation and denotation. So as we know here, denotation is the definition we understand from the dictionary, and connotation, on the other hand, is a word's figurative meaning or the additional layers of meaning that many people associate with a word beyond its dictionary definition. So for example here, the most general example that I could explain is that the word motivation, since this article is mainly about motivation, here the denotation of motivation is that we understand that it is a theoretical construct used to explain behavior. That's what it is in the dictionary. But we can also understand that connotation of motivation based on the context itself, it can be defined as a drive or a need. So, or perhaps it can be open-ended or a problem-solving sort of way. So yeah, that is for semantics. So moving on with pragmatics, the last element. Pragmatics is a branch of linguistics that studies language in use and the context in which it is used. So including topics such as thesis, taking turns in conversations, text organizations, and again, presuppositions and implicature. So, in other words, it allows us to look beyond the literal meaning of words and utterances and instead concentrate on how meaning is constructed in specific contexts. So, when we communicate with others, the listener and the speaker are constantly negotiating meaning. So, pragmatics, it examines this negotiation and seeks to comprehend what people mean when they communicate with one another. Okay, so in this article, one of the example that we can see is that in one of the subtopics, in one of the subtopics where it talks about intrinsic motivation, the author explains what intrinsic motivation is, and he gives examples of what may be one's self-desire to seek out new things and new challenges, or perhaps to observe and to gain knowledge. So he implicates that intrinsic motivation is driven by an interest or enjoyment in the task itself, and exists within the individual rather than relying on external pressures or desire for reward. So from there we could see the pragmatic occurrence as the author was talking about intrinsic motivation, right? And then the last example is also that pragmatics is also the study of contextual meaning. So it involves the interpretation of what people mean in particular contexts and how the context influences what is said. So this article has a variety of subtopics and to talk about, and that is what the author is trying to imply from discussing about one topic to another. However, everything relates and everything basically goes back to the main topic itself, which is motivation. So that is all from me. Thank you.
So to conclude this project, so doing this project has shown us that linguistics is complex and diverse, in which it has a lot of branches that allows us to research and explore different aspects of the words and sentences. Generally, general linguistics is concerned with the specific study of a particular languages, not languages. For example, English. And studying this subject is important as it furthers our knowledge in regards to general linguistics and to every word or formation of sentences from a more logical and scientific point of view. For example, how certain word is formed, what was removed, what was added, is this word a root word? Is this word an English origin word? What is the actual meaning of the sentence and all that? So all in all, conducting the study on the article based on the elements that we have chosen help us to understand every words and sentences better on the near future. That is all from all of us. Thank you.